Okay, so let's begin. So in yesterday's class, we were talking about some reforms. We had to talk about some reforms suggested for an smooth functioning of Lok Sabha. So we were talking about Lok Sabha, and in Lok Sabha we had talked about the composition of Lok Sabha, the tenure of the members, the manner of elections, the criticism, the relevance, the need, significance. So everything we have talked about. The last thing that we had to talk about Lok Sabha was reforms suggested. So what are the reforms suggested so that Lok Sabha can function smoothly? So for the smooth functioning of Lok Sabha, some reforms that had to be suggested, because we know that in Lok Sabha or in general in Parliament we see a lot of disruptions, chaos. We see that most of the time the house is not in order, so that, and due to this, the presiding officer, that is the chairperson of the house or the speaker of the house, had to adjourn the house because house is not in order. And we see sometimes most of the chaos. Sometimes we see fighting. The members of parliament are fighting with each other. Sometimes they are shouting, they are abusing each other. So most of the bad things or unparliamentary behavior and unparliamentary languages we see. So to make this not happen, that it does not happen and a house functions in order, what are the reforms that we can suggest? So what are the reforms? The major problem with the Lok Sabha in general is that the major problem about Lok Sabha in general is that in Lok Sabha, always any party, maybe any party, when it is in opposition, it always asks the prime minister to speak. That it says that prime minister is not speaking. Prime minister does not speak on this matter. Prime minister did not speak on that matter, and all these things. So the major problem is that prime minister does not speak. Even the critics are saying that the current incumbent prime minister has never done a single press conference in entire his you can say entire his tenure of 7 years, we can say so. So this is the thing, that he has not done any press conference, and he has not given any you can say he has not faced any questions in the House of Parliament. So this is the major problem. So what should be there when the opposition members are always asking that prime minister should speak? Because if you remember, when Manmohan Singh was the prime minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, when he was the prime minister, the opposition party always alleged that, most of the opposition parties always alleged that, even they said him Moni Baba, like that thing, that is silent person. But we are not going into these things. These are the political propagandas. But what we are saying, that major problem of opposition was that Mr. Manmohan Singh, the former prime minister, he did not speak, and they always wanted to that he should speak in the parliament. And then whenever he spoke in the parliament, he took the questions, he gave the answers, then the opposition members were satisfied. So in the same time, the present incumbent government also faces stiff opposition, because prime minister the opposition alleges that prime minister does not take questions from the members of parliament. He does not give answers. So all these things. So what should be the problem? The problem, and how the problem should be resolved. So let me give you the suggestion. The suggestion is that there should be a fixed day or a fixed 1 or 2 day. So 1 or 2 days in a month, in which house is in session, in a month when house is in session, when house is in session, House is in session. Prime Minister should be allotted time when he or she can take questions from the parliamentarians, from the parliamentarians and answer them accordingly to pacify and satisfy them so that house can function in order. So this is the solution. The solution is that suppose the budget session is going on. And opposition members are saying that if Prime Minister does not speak, we shall not let the house go on or function smoothly. Does not speak and does not give answer to our questions, speak and give answers to the questions we shall not let the house function smoothly. So the parliamentarians or the opposition parties and the you can say independent members are saying that we shall not let the house function. So the members are demanding that to let the house function smoothly, we require that first Prime Minister should come in the parliament, on the dais of the parliament, and he should or she should take the questions from us and should give the answers, and then we shall let the budget session or let the house function smoothly. So what should be the thing? The thing should be that first 2 or 3 days should be allotted for the Prime Minister, so that Prime Minister should be allotted to Prime Minister, that Prime Minister should be requested that please come in the parliament, please be present on the dais of the parliament, and please take the answers from the parliamentarians and give the questions so that they can get satisfied and they can let the house function smoothly afterwards. So if Prime Minister does this, then there will be no excuse for the parliamentarians to not let the house function smoothly. Parliamentarians, because what is the major request or major, you can say, cause of disruption by the parliamentarians? That they say that Prime Minister did not speak about this thing, Prime Minister did not take any question on that thing, Prime Minister only makes political you can say meetings or political advices or political announcements. He does not even take single questions or single press briefing, single press conferences. So this is the thing, that Prime Minister should be allotted in the House of Parliament 2 or 3 days of first 2 or 3 days of every session, and then he should be welcomed and he should be asked to come in the Parliament, and then he should take the questions from the parliamentarians and should give the answers so that the parliamentarians can get satisfied. And then if a Prime Minister takes the question and gives answers for 2-3 days, and parliamentarians should be given a notice that Prime Minister will be shall be present there, and you can ask the questions freely from him. And after that, you will have no excuse, and you should let the house function smoothly. So this is the major reform. Second reform is that most of time we find that opposition parties say that the ruling party, the ruling party should actively engage with the opposition parties while framing drafts of new legislations and should take their concerns, their suggestions, and their you can say apprehensions, you can say actively. So legislations. This is the second, because most of the time, suppose a new bill is introduced in the Lok Sabha, the opposition members start screaming and they start opposing, because they say that the draft of the bill is not required, and this law is itself not required, and ruling party is trying to impose bad laws, or impose, you can say, unrequired laws, trying to go through and trying to pass through the unrequired legislation that is not required. So this is the thing that before drafting the legislations, or before you can say making drafts of legislations, government should engage with opposition political parties actively, so that government could sense that whether they will let the house function or not on this matter, whether they are ready to have a debate on this matter or not. Okay, so these things are there. So these reforms can be suggested. And the third thing is that the ruling party or the government should negotiate with the opposition parties before the actual meetings to take policy decisions, and although it is the prerogative of the government to take any policy decision, but government should actively and politically negotiate with the opposition parties, so that they should also be informed, and you can say informed that what decision government is taking and how it is beneficial, and whether they should support it or not. So this is the thing. At least they should know that what decision does the government is going to know. And the most important reform that can be suggested in the functioning of the Lok Sabha is that the government should allot due time to opposition parliamentarians in the house. Most of the time we see that, we witness that the speaker, who is generally, though he is considered the symbol of impropriety and impartiality, but the speaker most of the time, what he does not allot due time to the opposition parliamentarians, so that they can also express their minds freely, and they can raise their concerns, raise their fears, and all these things, and can raise the questions, raise the matters of their constituency parliamentaries. So this is the thing. This is an apartheid attitude of the speaker, you can say, towards the parliamentarians of opposition parties or other parties that are not in government. So this is the thing, that speaker and the government in particular should take this matter into consideration, and they should allot due time, not excess time, but due time to opposition parliamentarians also in the house, so that they can also express their views, their concerns, their you can say objections, and their matters of their constituency freely. So this is the thing. These are the reforms that can be suggested for the smooth functioning of Lok Sabha, so that Lok Sabha does not witness chaos, house disorder or in the house, you can say, so that order of the house should be maintained, and house can function smoothly, and legislative process can go smoothly, and laws can be passed for the betterment of the country. So this is the thing that we have to talk about now. So what till now, what have we talked in general in parliament? So till now we have talked about Rajya Sabha. First we have talked about the introductory part, introduction to parliament, introduction to parliament. What is parliament? What is the composition of parliament? What is the need, significance of parliament? And what are the reforms? What is the thing that we can talk about the parliament? So these things we have talked about. Then in parliament we have talked about the Rajya Sabha, the composition, the qualification of the members, the manner of election, the disqualification matters, the you can say the mode of election. So all these things, reforms, the relevance of Rajya Sabha, how Rajya Sabha is not a secondary chamber, why Rajya Sabha is important, should Rajya Sabha be abolished or not, should Rajya Sabha continue or not. So these things we have talked about. We have talked about the special powers of Rajya Sabha. Then we have talked about the Lok Sabha. In Lok Sabha we have talked about the composition of Lok Sabha. We have talked about the qualification of members. We have talked about the composition of Lok Sabha. We have talked about the manner of election, how the members of Lok Sabha are elected. We have talked about the tenure of Lok Sabha. The tenure of Lok Sabha is 5 years, while the tenure of Rajya Sabha is that it is a permanent house, it cannot be dissolved, but Lok Sabha gets dissolved every 5 years. After 5 years, at every 5 years, its term tenure gets over. So Lok Sabha gets dissolved. Why Lok Sabha gets dissolved? Because you know that the tenure of members of Lok Sabha is 5 years. The tenure of members of Lok Sabha is 5 years, and after 5 years, all the members of Lok Sabha retire simultaneously. So when all the members of the Lok Sabha retire simultaneously, then the Lok Sabha gets dissolved. So Lok Sabha gets dissolved every 5 years, because the tenure of Lok Sabha is 5 years. Then again there is an election. So this is about tenure of Lok Sabha. Now let's come to the important dignitaries, important offices in the parliament. Important offices. But before talking about important offices about the with respect to parliament, let me give you some more important points with respect to Rajya Sabha. Some important points with respect to Lok Sabha. So first important point is that about the tenure of Lok Sabha. So we can say that the tenure of Lok Sabha is 5 years. 5 years which means after every 5 years, every 5 years, all the members of Lok Sabha retire simultaneously. It means together. It means at once all the members retire after every 5 years, except emergencies. Except in the case of national emergency. But if there is a national emergency, the tenure of Lok Sabha can be extended after the approval by the parliament. So national emergency. But in ordinary circumstances, after every 5 years, the tenure of Lok Sabha gets dissolved. The tenure of Lok Sabha is over, and the Lok Sabha gets dissolved because all the members of the Lok Sabha they retire simultaneously from the membership of the House. Second point, important point about Lok Sabha is that Lok Sabha being the popular chamber that is House of Youngers, the government is formed by the party or alliance or coalition commanding absolute majority in Lok Sabha. Absolute majority in Lok Sabha. What do you mean by it? It is saying that Lok Sabha is the popular chamber of the House, chamber of the Parliament, or it is also called younger House of the Parliament, House of Youngers. So the government is formed. Why it is called younger House or why it is called popular chamber? Because the members are directly elected by the people, and the members being directly elected by the people, the government is formed. It becomes the popular house, and the government is formed by any party or any alliance or any coalition that commands absolute majority. What is absolute majority? More than 50% of the total number of seats. More than 50% of the total number of seats is called absolute majority. So any party that commands absolute majority may form government, or any coalition may form if there is no party, no single party that has you can say got absolute majority, absolute number of seats in the Lok Sabha, or any alliance even. What is difference between alliance and you can say a coalition? We will talk about that in later part of this lecture. But let me tell you that, for example, you know that the total number of seats in the Lok Sabha is, total number of elected seats in Lok Sabha is 5. The total number is 552, out of which how much members are directly elected? 543. So how much members are directly elected? 543. So if you talk about out of 553, the 50% of 543 becomes 272 plus. 272 plus. This is the thing, and this was the reason that why when in 2014 election, when BJP was campaigning for the election, it was saying that abki bar 272 plus, or this time 272 plus, or 272 par. So this was the thing that why it was saying that this time 272 plus. It means we have to get 272 plus so that we can get the absolute majority. And when we shall get the absolute majority, we can form the government by our own. We don't need any alliance. We don't need any coalition and all these things. So this is why, because this is the absolute majority, absolute number of seats that is required to form the government in the Lok Sabha. So I hope you understood this. This is the thing. Now, so I was telling that to form the government in the Lok Sabha, you require absolute number of seats. What do we mean by absolute number of seats? More than 50%, more than half of the seats in the half of the electable seats or directly elected seats in the Lok Sabha, and this becomes 272 plus. So this is the thing. Now the third important point about Lok Sabha that you have to remember and that I want to reiterate is that Lok Sabha being the popular chamber or popular house, the confidence motion, the no confidence motion, no confidence motion, the cut motions, the you can say censor motion, censor motion. There are three types of cut motion: token cut, policy cut, and economy cut. Token cut, policy cut, and economy cut. So there are three types of cuts. We'll talk about these cut motions when we will talk about the budget. So in the budget, that is annual financial statement, that is article 112, that is 112. When we talk about article 112 and when we talk about the budget, we will talk about these cut motions, how these cut motions are, you can say, introduced in the parliament, what are their purpose, and how they are passed, whether they are passed or not, what happens after their passage. So these things we will talk about. So I was telling that Lok Sabha being the popular house, the confidence motion, no confidence motion, cut motion, censor motion, all these can only be introduced in Lok Sabha. In Lok Sabha. So this is the thing. What do you mean by confidence motion? Confidence motion is there. So let me tell you in brief. We'll talk about these motions, different motions, when we'll talk about the, you can say, functioning of the parliament, how parliament functions. When we will talk about the functioning of parliament. For example, when we will talk about the introduction of the bills, and the passage of the bills. Then we will talk about these different motions, resolutions. So in the section of bills, in the subsequent lecture, when we will talk about the bills, how many types of bills are there, how bills are introduced in the parliament, who drafts the bills, and what is the different types of the bills, and how it is passed. And then we'll talk about the motions, the resolutions. So all these things we will talk about there. But just for the sake of convenience, so that you could have some clarity about this, that what is confidence motion? Confidence motion is there in the Lok Sabha. Confidence motion is introduced in the Lok Sabha, by the government, to prove that it commands majority in the Lok Sabha. Because you know that you can be in power or in the government as long as you can be the government, as long as you command majority in the Lok Sabha. If Prime Minister does not command majority in Lok Sabha, he has to resign. Council of Ministers has to resign. Council of Ministers will be, you can say, censored, will be, you can say, removed. So this is the thing, because if they don't command, because by commanding majority in the Lok Sabha only, you can remain in the government. So this is the thing, that confidence motion is introduced in Lok Sabha by the government itself, that is Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister, to prove that it commands, that is the government commands majority in Lok Sabha. Here it means government. The government commands majority in Lok Sabha. While what is no confidence motion? No confidence motion is introduced, both are introduced in Lok Sabha, because Lok Sabha is the popular chamber. So introduced in Lok Sabha by opposition, to prove that government has lost majority. Government has lost majority in Lok Sabha. And when government has lost majority, so if no confidence motion is passed, when confidence motion gets passed, the government is saved. government is saved. But when no confidence motion gets passed, government falls. Government falls. That is, council of ministers headed by the prime minister has to resign, because you know that council of ministers headed by the prime minister. Prime minister is a you can say paribus in, you can say inter paribus, or you can say primus inter paribus. That is one among the equals. So he is also a minister. He is the part of council of minister. So if government loses majority in Lok Sabha, loses the confidence motion, if confidence motion, no confidence motion is passed by in the Lok Sabha, it means that government has lost majority in Lok Sabha. And when government has lost majority, that is, it no longer commands majority. And when it no longer commands majority, then what will happen? Government, that is prime minister, has to resign. And prime minister being primus inter paribus, when prime minister resigns, his council of ministers are dissolved, and thus government falls. So this is the thing that you have to remember about some important points about Lok Sabha. I hope it is clear. Now let's come to our main point. So I was telling that what we have to talk about is, now we have to talk about some important dignitaries with respect to parliament, important offices, important offices of parliament. So some important office holders of parliament, we will talk about that. For example, first we will talk about the speaker of Lok Sabha, speaker and deputy speaker of Lok Sabha, how they are elected. Deputy speaker, speaker and deputy speaker. Then we will talk about the chairperson and deputy chairperson of Lok Sabha, chairperson and deputy chairperson of Rajya Sabha, deputy chairperson of Rajya Sabha. Then we will talk about some important points with respect to prime minister. Prime minister as primus inter paribus. Inter paribus. Then we will talk about some important provisions with respect to council of ministers. Council of ministers. Not in great detail, because these things become the part of, you can say, union executive. Prime minister and the council of ministers become part of union executive. So we will not go into detail. But here, in these two cases, these are the parts of parliament. So we will have a great detail about a speaker, the powers of a speaker, the functions of a speaker, the rights of the speaker, the special powers of the speaker. We will talk about the chairperson, election duties, and all these things. So what we will talk about? We will talk about their election, how they are elected, or appointment, though they are elected. We will talk about their functions, their powers. What is the power of a speaker? What is the power of deputy speaker? Okay, the powers, the, you can say, relevance, how they are relevant, whether they are relevant or not, whether the office should be there or not, whether office should be, you can say, removed or not. We will talk about the relevance. Then we will talk about some of the criticism, because you know that most of the time the speaker and deputy speaker of Lok Sabha, they are criticized that they are functioning as the, you can say, agent of the government, because they generally belong to the party in power. So they sometimes, the opposition member, the other parliamentarian, they allege that the speaker and the deputy speaker, though they are symbol of impropriety and impartiality, but they are functioning as an agent of the government. This is the thing. What are the allegations? And we will sincerely try to refute those allegations or try to suggest some reforms. We will suggest some reforms suggested. So these things we have to talk about. We will talk about in great detail. So first, let's talk about the speaker of Lok Sabha. First, we will talk about the speaker The most important office with respect to Parliament, Speaker of Lok Sabha. So if you have to know about the Speaker of Lok Sabha, there is a very important judgment of Supreme Court, and that is called Kyoto Holohan versus Jasilu, 1993. In this case, Supreme Court very clearly, very significantly, very importantly, it, you can say, conveyed or it portrayed the picture of speaker, that what are the duties of the speaker, what a speaker can do, what a speaker cannot do, what is the importance of the speaker of Lok Sabha, what is the you can say, some Supreme Court also tried to suggest some reforms also. So these things, this case is very important. Kyoto Holohan versus Jasilu. We will talk about this case in subsequent lecture in great detail. So what is this thing? Supreme Court is in this case said that speaker is the symbol of propriety and impartiality. Symbol of propriety and impartiality. Symbol of propriety and impartiality. That is, by the virtue of his office or her office, the speaker is the symbol of propriety and impartiality. That is, he is sole authority in the Lok Sabha, and his conduct cannot be said to be impartial, cannot said to be partial. So impartiality, he is the symbol of impartiality. By the virtue of his office, he or she has to be impartiality, because the office requires impartiality. This was the thing. Second thing that the Supreme Court said, that speaker is sole authority, that is single authority to identify a bill as money bill. Identify a bill as money bill. That it is the Speaker of Lok Sabha that decides which bill is a money bill, whether a bill is a money bill or not. It is the sole prerogative, sole authority, sole power of Speaker of Lok Sabha. He can declare or she can declare any bill as money bill if he or she is satisfied that this bill is a money bill, and no objection can be raised on the, you can say, on the decision of the speaker in any court of law, though except power of judicial review is there, and basic doctrine of basic structure is there. So this is the thing. Otherwise, speaker has sole authority to decide any bill as money bill or identify any bill as a money bill. Then there is, he is the speaker or she is sole authority to decide the matter of disqualification, with respect to anti-defection law, with respect to disqualification of parliamentarians, disqualification of parliamentarians with respect to, that is with regards to, in the matter of anti-defection law. So if a member of parliament or parliamentarians has to be, you can say, disqualified under anti-defection law. It is the discretionary power of the speaker to decide whether this member or the members or the parliamentarians should be disqualified under anti-defection law or not. And his decision is not, you can say, tenable in any court of law, though Supreme Court in Kyoto Holohan case said that the speaker, the decision of the speaker can be challenged in the Supreme Court, can be challenged in the Supreme Court in the case of, in case of, or only on the single ground of judicial review, that it violates the power of judicial review of the, you can say, judiciary. So this is the thing. We'll talk about this these provisions in great detail, but just first let me enumerate. So this is the third provision. Next is so next thing that we have to talk about is the election of the speaker. So how a speaker is elected? Election of speaker. Speaker is elected by a simple majority. Simply a simple majority. What is simple majority? Okay, so we stop here. Thank you. Have a good day.